Hi, it's Sarah from South Fayette Township Library, and today I'd like to talk to you about American author Jeannette Walls and two of her books, The Glass Castle and Half-Broke Horses. Jeannette Walls graduated from Barnard College in New York City in 1984. After graduation, she wrote for a newspaper in New York City, then for a magazine. Then she became a gossip columnist for Esquire and took a job as a gossip columnist for MSNBC. She married an entrepreneur and lived in a beautiful apartment on Park Avenue, complete with a doorman and a marble floor. On the outside, Jeannette Walls looked like a beautiful, young, successful woman. But on the inside, she felt like she wasn't living an authentic life because she was keeping all the details of her childhood a secret from everyone. That all came to a head one chilly March evening when Jeannette Walls set out by taxi to go to a party, and the taxi cab got stuck in traffic. When she glanced out the window, she saw an older homeless woman digging through the trash. When she looked a little closer, that older homeless woman was her very own mother. Her first instinct was to slide down the seat in the taxi cab, hoping that her mother wouldn't recognize her or call out to her because she was embarrassed. Jeannette Walls never did go to that party. She went back to her apartment and did some long, hard thinking, and she felt very ashamed. This is how Jeannette Walls begins her 2005 memoir, The Glass Castle. The Glass Castle has sold more than 5 million copies. It's been translated into 22 languages and was on the New York Times bestseller list for 424 weeks. I think that the success of The Glass Castle is really attributable to the fact that Jeannette Walls writes about her childhood with honesty, with humor, and with compassion. Jeannette Walls is very honest about the very difficult aspects of her childhood. Moving around from place to place, just one step ahead of the bill collectors. Both of her parents dealing with mental illness. Her father's alcoholism and his inability to hold a job. And her mother's interest in painting more than in feeding, clothing her children. Jeannette Walls also deals with her childhood with a sense of humor because Rex and Rosemary Walls were really very funny people, and that was passed on to Jeannette. One very tiny example of this would be when they ran from place to place, when they had to leave in the middle of the night. Rex would call it the skedaddle. And they had 20 minutes to grab everything that was important to them and that they loved so that they could skedaddle. I think that she also deals with her childhood with a huge amount of compassion. She recognized that her parents suffered from mental illness, and she didn't blame them for the things that happened to her during her childhood. She also had a deep sense that her parents loved her and her 3 siblings greatly. This is a fantastic book for a book discussion group. I highly recommend it. And you can watch the 2015 movie version starring Woody Harrelson, Brie Larson, and Naomi Watts. Currently, I'm reading another book from Jeannette Walls called Half-Broke Horses. This book was written in response to Jeannette Walls' fans. They wanted to know more about her mother, Rosemary, and how she could be the way that she was. When Jeannette approached her mother about writing a book about her life, Rosemary insisted that Jeannette write about her mother's life. And so Half-Broke Horses is primarily about the life of Lily Casey Smith. And she lived through so many changes in America. She was born in the early 1900s, and she was around for the advent of indoor plumbing, the telephone, the car. Lily Casey Smith was born so poor that her family lived in a dirt dugout in Texas. She was breaking in wild horses at the age of 5, and not long after that, she was actually managing their entire ranch. Her father, much like Rosemary's own husband Rex, was a dreamer. Instead of running the ranch that he lived on, he was more interested in writing a biography of Billy the Kid. Lily Casey Smith got out of that ranch as quickly as she could. She got a certificate to teach, and she took her horse Patches and rode from New Mexico, where her family was living at the time, all the way to Arizona to be a teacher in a one-room schoolhouse. There were many places in the country where they were in dire need of teachers. The men left their factory jobs to go fight in the war, and the teachers, most of them women, took those jobs because they were higher paying. So Lily landed a temporary teaching job in a schoolhouse. When the real teacher returned, Lily went back to the ranch and realized that she couldn't live there anymore. She took a train from New Mexico to Chicago, where she even attended rallies for women's suffrage. She lived through the Great Depression, Prohibition. Her life was so interesting. She's a very strong woman and very resilient. Many things happened in her lifetime that most people would consider devastating, and I think Lily Casey Smith would have considered them a minor setback. This is also a great book for a book discussion. Ever since I read The Glass Castle, there have been numerous different books written like this, where people talk about overcoming very difficult childhoods. J.D. Vance's Hillbilly Elegy is an example. Tara Westover with Educated, and even Trevor Noah with Born a Crime. In each case, we see that people not only overcome their childhood, but they become very successful through resilience, persistence, and hard work. Such a good lesson for all of us. I hope that you enjoy The Glass Castle and Half-Broke Horses. And if you've read a memoir that struck you, please let me know in the comments below. You can get Glass Castle and Half-Broke Horses on the Libby app. Thank you very much. Stay safe and have a great week.